record our that will always have some in person, some Zooming, and some not able to attend. So with the follow-up notes, you'll always get the Zoom recording, so you won't ever be out of the loop on the exciting things that are going on. We will always start our meetings with an opening devotion prayer. And so because I did not ask anyone ahead to prepare for this, I think Pastor Ken would do a much better job at an opening prayer than me. So I'm going to put him on the spot if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Let us pray. Good and loving God, we give you thanks for entrusting us with the care and ministry of your gospel. We declare that we are earthen vessels containing an incredible treasure. So help us to be creative and imaginative in sharing that treasure, in distributing that treasure, and in being faithful to the calling to which you call us. We also ask you to bless this food and nourish our bodies as you nourish our spirits. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
I think you meant practice.
All right, so as you unfold and get into eating, I thought I would talk for a few minutes to get us kicked off. But then you will all have to talk while you're eating. So when it's your turn, you'll just have to pause for a little bit on the talk. I am going to share how I think this task force came to be. And then Pastor Ken and Michael Vodnik will correct me after I have shared why I think this task force came to be. But then out of that, it'll be everybody's turn to share what spoke to you about this task force that you felt, oh, I think this is a good place for me to use my gifts. All right, so I have been blessed to be a member of St. Armand's Key since the 1980s. So Nina, were you born then? Okay, you weren't even born. Okay, all right. So just putting things in context.
Depressed.
All right. But the good news is we have a multi-generational perspective coming to this task force because we have many generations who are participating. So again, I have been blessed to be part of St. Armand's Key. I have been fortunate to actually, we recently celebrated the 25th year of the sanctuary, and I chaired the Forward in Faith campaign to raise the money for the sanctuary being built. And I had the privilege of chairing 2 call committees. So for pastors, so I've watched the change, and I do believe there was a bit of PTSD for Ann and Pastor when they walked in this room, because that was one of the call committees that I chaired, that Ann served on the call committee and Pastor was the person who was called. So there's history in this room. Over the years, of course, that would mean I've had many different pastors and different experiences with worship. And one of the innovations that happened, I don't even remember what year, but it happened on Pastor Zimmer's watch, was when the Service of Joy was born. And then after Pastor Zimmer, it went through various iterations. And Bill and I, Bill is my spouse who's now part of the Heavenly Choir, but Bill and I would always go to the Service of Joy. And we not only did the Service of Joy at St. Armand's Key Lutheran Church, but whenever we go on vacation, we would try to find a congregation to see how they did what might be termed contemporary worship. So my love of worship tends to be more in alternate worship experiences than traditional, albeit I find great value in traditional as well. But oh, wait, you're not supposed to be here. Okay, all right, I'm pausing for you to give an update to everyone about what was going on.
Thank you for asking. So at about 10 o'clock this morning, we got notified that there was a bomb threat at my daughter's school. So yeah, there's a whole lot of back and forth. Thank you. About what we should do. Should I go on site? Should I try to go through the emergency people there that are working to try to get my daughter? Is that even possible? So there's just a whole bunch of confusion around that whole situation. But I kind of was halfway here, and that's when I called you, and then I thought to myself, I need to go back. So I went back, talked to some of the officers on the site, talked to some other parents, and, they're saying everything's secure. Nobody's in danger. They checked everything out. They're letting all the students back in. So, one of our neighbors, thank God, offered to pick her up for us. So
And what school is this?
Tatum Ridge Elementary.
Okay, all right. Well, these are scary times, and
Yes.
so, thank heavens that it was a non-issue, even though it was an issue. Yes. I have a leaning into different worship styles. And when the Saturday night service evolved at St. Armand's Key, that was where I found that was a good spot for me to be. And so I miss the service of joy. I miss the Saturday night service. Albeit the 9 and 11 are quite fine, but I need to speak to my worship style to see if there are other ways that we can do it at St. Armand's. So I reached out to Pastor and I shared my hope and aspiration, and he felt that the timing for such a study group was appropriate for us to, let's take a fresh look at things and see what's possible. And I will share with you that my style, besides having 1 hour meetings, the other part of the style is to do process before plunge. So not arriving with the answer, but figuring out how to get enough intel ideas so that when we decide to make recommendations, we've put enough thought and process, and it's just not our own, this is what we should do. So I was beyond thrilled that Pastor was open to the idea, and Pastor and Michael and I met to make sure Michael was open to the idea about how a task force might be able to make recommendations. Not to do anything with 9 and 11. Those are happy places. Everybody's happy. But is there anything else that might be possible for people who would feel their faith deepened with a different kind of service at a different time? So that's kind of my backstory about how I came to this. And it was with Pastor went to the council and said, why don't we let him take a wing at it? Okay. So I think it would be helpful for Pastor to give your version of what I just said.
Your version was spot on. And why I thought the timing was so wonderful was that we'd run into time crunches, family commitments that made Saturday night impossible. We transferred to Sunday and could tell fairly quickly that that wasn't going to fly. And it was at that point that I really became aware of how little I knew. How little I knew what the congregation wanted. I've got lots of ideas. Michael's got more ideas than the average bear. It's not for want of imagination, and not for want of effort or desire. But Michael and I had spoken previously about we just don't know what the congregation is looking for. And rather than continually throwing ideas, concepts, and fully fleshed out services at the congregation and hoping it would stick, this seemed to be a much more faithful, deliberate, and useful way to get at it.
All right. And Michael, when you and Pastor and I met, do you have observations on the why this is an okie dokie thing to happen? Or not?
I think everything you said, Pastor said is, yeah, this is a good time.
So why does it speak to you?
I think it's always worthwhile to be thinking of something new and fresh. And right now, in the past year, we now have this growth committee that's looking at different options for how to continue drawing people in. We've been putting so much investment in time and talent and technology, and it's just interesting to think about possibilities and new and fresh.
Okay, all right. So Bob, well, you left. All right, well, I was just gonna call on Bob. All right, so here he is back again. While Bob is demuting, Bob, you're now gonna share you know, why being on this task force speaks to you, but before you talk, I do want to explain, where is Chris? Because Chris is on this as well. Soderman?
Chris is traveling.
No, I know, that's
Oh,
why,
oh.
no, I was gonna tell why. Oh, it wasn't a question. No, I know that answer. I know the answer. No, Chris is in Wisconsin because in the serious part of life, she's in Wisconsin. Her mom is entering hospice care and she wants to be there for her mom. So, Chris, it is very much in this committee. That's why we are taping. So she won't miss it, so that she can just carry on right with us, okay? So Bob, I'm gonna let you give us your, what spoke to you about this task force?
Okay, so
Oh, don't tell me he froze. I'm just gonna have a heart attack. Okay, all right, so hold on while I get the tech team. All right, all right, so hold on. Don't anybody share theirs.
I don't understand these technical problems.
I just,
I love this particular quote, and it goes something different. You will never grow. I certainly have been sitting in on those meetings for months and weeks because with any organization, that's the lifeblood.
that's not us.
And we talked now.
It's- Can you hear me now?
Back now.
All right. So we need to, I think it's clear we need to grow and we need to figure out how we can grow and how best we can grow. And having a different service is certainly one of the vehicles we can use to fund or fuel that growth. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. No, feel free.
Okay. So, you know, yeah, over the years, many people have come up to me and said, gosh, I miss that service that you were involved in for so many years. And I think that that's a missing component in our worship menu these days. So this task force spoke to me from the opportunity of growth and how we can fuel growth with a potential alternative service that speaks to our congregation and figuring that out.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm gonna move on then, Marge.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me to be on this task force. I liked working with Deborah. I was on the AV Tech Task Force as well, and I just like the fact that the meetings weren't wasted. So that I appreciated a lot. But I was particularly interested in this idea only because when we first joined St. Armand's, and I'm trying to think how many years ago it's been.
Can I be sure, Rob, Bob, can you hear Marge? Because I want to make sure you don't miss anything. Okay, good. All right.
Thanks. So it's been at least 12 years, roughly. And so when we first started coming to St. Armand's, there was a contemporary service and a traditional service. That was the way it was advertised and noted in the bulletins and everything. So it was a very different service between the two, similarities in a lot of them, but very different in music and style a little more casual. And then we've kind of morphed away from that. And I grew up in a very traditional church. So that's kind of where my roots are. So I'm very comfortable with that and I love it. But also the conversations we've been having with Nina's group now with trying to reach out to other people is something missing that we're not getting younger people coming in. It makes you wonder. And so I like the idea that we're just not going to ask the question. You know, is there something else that you prefer that you'd like to see? Or have you heard comments from other people who have tried it, maybe didn't like it? So I think probing into the what ifs and the whys are exciting for me.
Okay, all right. Okay, Pastor, I'm going to pop over you because you already had you had a turn. Okay, Nina, what spoke to you about this work?
I was
Now make sure
born-
Bob can hear you.
Can you hear me, Bob? Great. I was born and raised in the Catholic Church, so I've had experience with that worship setting, and then my family and I went kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. We went to a big church, non-denominational setting, big band, all that. I was a music leader in both of those settings. I cantored in the choirs and led the choirs and such in Catholic church, and also was the youth leader in the band in the non-denominational church and sang in the big band there. Then I came to St. Armand's Lutheran Church. So now I have experience in this worship setting. Music is my passion. Worship is my passion in every sense of the word. I love the traditional hymns. I love the contemporary hymns. I love the alternative worship. So I'm excited to explore the different aspects of worship and to see what we can come up with as a team to expand on the worship we have, or if not, that's okay too, just to really hone in on what our congregation needs at SAKLC worship-wise.
Rob,
So first and foremost, what spoke to me was the opportunity to serve God. Any opportunity that I have, I'll say yes to him anytime. That's the first one. Also, I think as Christians, we have a duty to help those who have not realized their salvation to find it. And that looks very different to a lot of people because the paths to that are extremely different because the people are extremely different. So I'm very much of the mind that there's no such thing as a one size fits all when it comes to outreach. So I think the more flexible we can become, the more as much as we can be everywhere at once, even though that's not possible, I think it's only going to help fellow new parishioners and existing parishioners, but then also folks that don't even realize that they need this great gift of grace from God.
so Kevin?
Well, I'm relatively new to St. Armand's Key Lutheran Church. We have come down for years. My wife has a connection and her parents were seasonal members of the church, during the winter. So we would be down for the occasional Easter or the occasional Christmas. Enjoyed the church, but it was just a place we visited. We both moved down here 2 years ago and both retired at the same time. And we're thinking about, well, where do we actually want to be for a church, leaving our two churches that we had up in Minnesota, in northern Minnesota, because we had a lake home. So we had another church we visited and our regular church. And so we came our first few times just out of ease. We came here and I said to my wife, I'm looking for 3 things out of a church. I'm looking for a pastor that can tell a great story, not read notes. I've had pastors who read their sermons in the past. I've had pastors that just don't connect with the group. I need a great pastor who connects with the group. I need a bell choir because as a 20-year law enforcement person, I was never able to participate in bell choir because my schedule would not allow participation. So now I can. I have to have a bell choir and I have to have communion in little shot glasses because for some reason intinction, which we did at my other church, just is unsatisfactory to me. So those are my 3 basic things. I found that here, and much to my wife's surprise, I actually wanted to go to her family's church and make this our own because I love everything about it. I think Michael and Ken and Nina do fabulous work. And throughout my career, I have seen people burn out by being improperly utilized. Either much too much work, not enough work, or the wrong work. So if we are going to have another service that is going to require the talents and attention of these people, I want it to be a very rewarding service for them. Not a service that's underattended, not a service that's like, okay, we got to do another one just because, and we only have a few people here and people come in and out. I want it to be a well-attended and well-utilized service that makes people want to come to this church.
Great. I'm feeling a bit of passion around the table here. All right, so this is exciting. All right, Anne, bring it home for us. All right. No pressure. Okay. Everybody else was excited.
So I am too, because I've been around the church for a long time as well. My background, like Nina, I was raised Catholic, UCC, Lutheran, all different kinds of Lutherans, that kind of stuff. when I came here, my husband and I, we attended the service of joy as well. And the reason, because those of you who know me well, you know I'm not an early mornings person by choice. But I went to the early service because we came away from that service feeling, it was very uplifting, there was a message there, but, it felt, like I said, joyful. Now, realizing we can't be all to all, I'm also a person, I love new things. I like challenges. I like to explore new things. And I think we're at a point in our congregation where we need to really see what is that new thing that people might gravitate to. We would all love to have young people come to our congregation, come to our church and worship. But again, realizing that part of the issue we have is geographic location. On the other side of the bridge, or a retirement community, all of those data points that, have been put out there. But I think it's time to explore what's an alternative, and what is that style of worship? What will it look like? To bring other folks in, or even people like us, myself, who might attend 2 services. I don't know. Big wish.
So I'm going to shift a little bit into tactics that are not strategic first. As we're sitting in today's conversation, either during today or after today, I'll follow up with each of you. Everybody's got a job. Okay, so you're listening to, oh, I could do that, or I will do this. Y'all send in your preferences. I know what you don't want to do, so nobody has to do anything they don't want to do, but everybody's going to have to do something. And the way I would like to say that the task force could work, we'll always do important work while we're together, but work has to happen outside of here. So you kind of signed on for a 2-parter. While we're here, we use our time together well, but then whatever you're in charge of, you're probably going to have to do some things with other people outside. So let me pause and see, is that acceptable, or do you have any concerns about that kind of approach? Okay, so just as we're talking, kind of go, okay, or whatever. Okay, so I just want you to be thinking by the end. I'll say, so does anyone have things that they want to say? I'm going to do that and I'll sign on for that. Okay. Because we're all different human beings and we think differently, we behave differently, we connect differently. I think overall for the task force, it would be helpful for us to say what our guiding principles are and how do we want to work as a task force. All right, so does anyone want to scribe? They could go over and scribe on the flip chart, or I can just say no one wants to scribe. Okay, so we will just take notes then. But you need to know that I am not the secretary. I do agendas, and so as we're thinking about it, who's going to capture key points? I want to make sure nothing gets lost. Okay, so when you think about a guiding principle that would be important for us as a group. Does anybody have one that immediately comes to mind that we would want to include as a guiding principle? On test one, Rob's bursting. Okay, what have you got over there?
Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but God first.
Yes. All right, so again, we are humans. And we actually felt, I have to tell you that during the AV Tech Task Force, more than once we knew there was divine intervention on everything we were doing through that. Is that not true, Marge? And how many times did we go?
We're chuckling because I'm thinking about how many times it happened.
Right. Yeah, so we have divine that we are centered on our faith in God and advancing God in the world. All right, would be a good. And we're going to take it and someone's going to wordsmith them and then we'll come up with some approved guiding principles. Other guiding principles that you think would be helpful for us. I'll throw one out. I would like us to come from a place of possibility rather than a place of problem. I think that when we open up our brains to what's possible, rather than, I think we need one of these. So the not arriving with the answer, and having a mindset of possibility. Now, of course, we want it based in reality, so we don't abuse people but mine would be having a mindset of possibility. And not arriving with the answer. I guess that's two things, because I think we've got to let process play out for us on how do we arrive at the answer, not starting with the answer. Other guiding principles that you think would help us as a group stay centered? We like to pull out the old guiding principles whenever we're having a dysfunctional time. All right, so you're setting up.
Not that
your
that
own-
will ever happen.
It'll never happen, but it's nice to all think we're coming at it from a similar direction. Michael? Oh, you look like you had one. Okay, all right. All right. So any other guiding principles? Marge?
You may have already said this, but I think keeping an open mind to anything, and I think possibility, not problem, is part of that. But I think that no matter what people say, to really consider that, because feedback from everyone is, to me, a critical piece of this whole process. Because it's not just my church or Ann's church or Deborah's church, it's our church. And I really like to hear what everyone else is thinking, because I've heard things, scatters of comments here and there. But to get a bigger picture of that and keep an open mind and don't just go, well, that'll never work. We tried that in 72.
So I think being open-minded and being authentic listeners and learners. We want to be authentic in listening and learning. I do want to, I don't know what this principle is, but I would like to make sure we are oriented to, we have to deliver. We just can't talk and spin. Okay, so that our orientation is to, for a recommendation. It doesn't mean that we're going to have it the day one. We shouldn't, because they would not be listening authentically. And how about if we put something in here about we want to make sure. Many times a task force can be turned inward and it's all about us. This whole communicating the process, we want to be, the popular word is transparent, but we want to be communicative so that it's not a surprise. Sometimes, when you plant seeds along the way, when you come up with a recommendation, all of a sudden people thought, well, of course we were going to do that because I heard that talked about. So I think that being communicating with the congregation, being communicative out would be a good principle for us. Okay. Anybody else have anything that they want to add? Bob, did you have anything since I had my back to you? I apologize for that.
Well, uplifting and supporting the final decision. I think our task force should come to a consensus when we do have our final decision or recommendation, if you will. So getting a consensus among the participants, I think, is important. And that comes through conversation, discussion, and agreement. And like you said, focus on what we're trying to accomplish and focus on praise and worship. Praise the Lord. It's all about him. It's not about us.
So I'm gonna make sure, and who's ever the crafter of these guiding principles will on that, we'll debate, we'll consensus, we'll go, but once the recommendation goes out, we are all united. Okay, we can disagree, but once it goes out, you can't say, well, I didn't really like that, a second thing. All right, so we all agree that we will be united around the product that goes out, even though we may not like it while we're putting it together. That might be hard, but is that something we can have as a principle that we want to do? All right, okay. All right, so,
Can I add one thing?
I'm sorry.
May I add one thing?
Yes, we certainly.
I don't know if it's a guiding principle or not, but when Pastor Ken and I started this Saturday night service, and I can't even remember exactly how long ago it was, but the idea for the Saturday night service was kind of twofold. It was to provide alternate form of worship or an alternate style of worship. But it was also for a convenience factor for congregation members who might not be available on Sunday mornings because they have family in town or something's going on, they can't come Sunday. And thereby in the past would just not have come to church that weekend, then we would have lost them to that weekend. But now there are people who come on Saturday night before their Sunday plans. And that was kind of the way we were existing for about 2 years. And then when this growth committee, all of a sudden that idea of the third service took on like a growth trajectory that it didn't have, not that we weren't saying, because we were getting visitors on Saturday night. We got visitors on Saturday nights that became members and stuff, but that wasn't the focus of it. And so I guess, I don't know if it's worthwhile, but just as a guiding principle, say, who are we trying to, what is our focus group of people, or why are we doing this? For whom are we doing it?
Yeah, I'm into is that a guiding principle or is that in the who's the audience? So, I
guess.
There's no rule, but I want to make sure we actually need to spend time on who is the audience. You know, and so I think we have to do that whole persona thing of what are the types and personnel and types that we would have. But so let's somehow put that over here with something here that our principle is thinking beyond the who is our, what give us a principle. So we're thinking in a direction. So what would be, we're doing a little committee wordsmithing here, but what would be the principle about we're doing this?
Maybe it's not a principle, maybe it's the personas, I'm not sure.
I think it might go back to the original question. Why are we doing this?
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, why are we doing this? Do we really need this? Do we not need it? I don't know, right?
Well, and that's what we're gonna learn.
Yeah.
Because that's why we're gonna go out and ask questions and see what people are hunger for, or need, or want, or think, or blah, blah, blah. But so, and that is the who are we gonna ask question too, that we'll get in there too. But, so could a guiding principle be something like, worship takes many forms, and we want to be open to thinking about the many times, place, forms of worship. I mean, it's that openness that we're open. We're not just trying to work on a Sunday thing or a Saturday thing or I mean, it could, we don't even know what it could be if we're open to worship takes place in many different forms and times. And our guiding principle is to stay open to that as people inform our decision making. I mean, that's a stab. I don't know if that's the answer.
I think I'm hearing stay curious.
But now there you go. That's a nice principle that we will stay curious. With answers someday. We can't be curious forever. All right. Can't be curious forever.
Only 5 months.
Because, well, in that, okay, so let me,
Results-based curiosity.
pardon?
Results-based curiosity.
Yes, results. Oh, I rather like that one. All right, that's I like that one. All right, so guiding principles, I'd like someone to think about who'd like to work on writing them off so we can all look at them in between. So just think about that at the end, unless somebody's saying, I want to do this now. Does anybody want to volunteer for guiding principle crafting at this time? Anybody want that one?
I will look for guiding principles.
You're gonna do that? Okay, thank you. All right, so I do want to go to this results-based thing because Pastor Michael and I did talk about time frame. So we're gonna get ourselves in this is our window. The concept is whatever that comes out of this is we would like to be able to, assuming actionable stuff comes out of it, is that if we could take it to the church council in August so that soft rollout could happen in the September, October, November timeframe before we get into the major everybody's back in full swing, but that would give us an on-ramp for doing whatever it is in the quieter times of September, October timeframe. So that would give us between, so that's not, it sounds like a lot of time. It won't be because you're all gonna go on vacation sometime. All right, and when we think about that, so is everybody comfortable that we're gonna focus on heading to the church council in August, which by the way, I have no idea, when does church council meet? Does it meet in August? Does it
Yeah,
meet
you
in the
decided.
summer?
Some years it does, some years it's July, but they.
I've got to believe this year will be.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll
I
be.
can't imagine it's having a month off. No.
Okay, so yes, so if the church council meets in August, when is it? Is it the beginning of the month?
It's the third, well, it's currently the third Monday.
The third Monday of August, okay. That's our target date for product, okay? And I would like everyone to know that that might be our target week for what we have rehearsal before then, about who's gonna say what, whatever, so that we'll actually have it done before then as we go forth. All right, so I'm staying in the tactical department now. I would like to recommend, because of this short time frame, that we meet every 2 weeks in person or by Zoom. That way it gives us time to act and then do and then come back together again. So first, let me test who has a heart attack on the every 2 week discussion, 1 hour every 2 weeks. Is everybody kind of okay with that rhythm? Okay, knowing that you are gonna go on vacation, then you get to listen to the Zoom when you're not here. Okay, so if it's every 2 weeks, now I just want to get a flavor before I start sending out doodles all over the place. So it's 1 hour, you can Zoom, you can be in person. Deborah has no time to be the chairman of this task force department. I can't travel to meetings. So I will feed you out of my personal wallet if you will come here, or you can Zoom. So I say that just because if you say, well, you know, it'd be a lot more convenient if we did it at the church. I'll Zoom in every time. So I would be, huh?
You don't need to feed it.
But I
Let's not be so used to here.
We're just creepy lady.
Off the task force.
Or seem to enjoy their donuts. So, everybody, every group has their own style there.
We are Lutherans.
All right, all right.
Feed them and they will come.
Get the jello, all right, so,
Sorry.
Mike, could I just hear whatever you do, please don't have meetings on these days. Okay, I'm gonna really look to Pastor and Michael, because I think this is one of those you want to be in more than out with us. So what are the days, please do not have task force meetings on free, or anybody else? If
Wednesday.
certain days are like, please, no, what are they?
I cannot do Wednesday.
No Wednesday, okay? All right, who else has any day of the week that's a
No
no?
Friday.
No Fridays, okay?
No Thursday.
No Thursday, okay, now we're getting, this is getting tricky.
Tuesday's good.
It looks like Tuesday's.
Going for, what was the other one?
It looks like Tuesdays work well.
All right, so we're gonna zero in on Tuesdays.
Yep.
All right, that's lovely. This is getting easy. Bob, are you in on Tuesdays if they turned out to be on Tuesdays? Now, as I'm doodling, do we like early morning? Do we like lunch? Do we like end of day? What? All right, if you want lunch, I'm gonna start rotating costumes. I'm okay buying the donuts, but yes, so.
I say around lunchtime, just because early morning Tuesdays at the church can be a little hectic, but things wind down at around 11.
Okay, so,
The things start
so
to-
we would love to have the lunch option, because we're doing Tuesdays now, all right?
Yeah.
Or do people prefer end of day?
No,
No end of days, no, we're going for Tuesday lunches. All right, it may turn out to be lots of pizza, okay, because I can buy 2 pizzas, no, I'm joking. All right, so I'm gonna say, what did you say?
we can buy lunch.
No, no, that's not, no, no,
There's
you're,
some fun somewhere. Christian education.
no, but listen, no, wait a second. You are indulging me by driving here, so I am very happy to feed you. So.
You did.
You walked? Oh, well. Oh, it's easy. Okay, good. All right, so thank you. I shall send out the schedule, all right, and then you can get it on your calendars, okay? So,
Can I request a date that we don't meet? though?
yes, please do.
Can we not meet on Tuesday, May 14th,
Okay,
please?
that's fine. All right,
Well, every 2 weeks that we make it this, the next one would be the 23rd and then the 7th.
Okay, that's it.
okay, but I'll just make sure we don't pick.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
my pickle is my calendar's into 2025, so there may be some that it might be 3 weeks or so. I won't do weekly, but it might end up getting bumped, okay, depending on schedule. All right, so that's very good. All right, so next, what we want to talk about is using our gifts. And how do we use our gifts and where do we start in this thing? I would like to say that Marge has already agreed to be the crafter of our updates and keynotes or bulletin. She's already agreed.
Kind of in the mode.
You know, she likes to do it. Now, it doesn't mean that's the only thing she's gonna do, but that's what she said she was gonna do.
Did I step on your toes? You can do that.
No, no, no,
No,
no,
that's not this.
Not
No, 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 that's
This
not
is, this
this.
is just the
This
things that
is
go
the-
into
That we
connections.
write that
Okay.
go into
Yeah.
connections. So in the world of, I'm gonna pause right now. I do think that people like to know. So it seems to me that the alt worship task force met and here's who's on it.
That was my thought when I was reading the last little notice. I thought people are gonna wanna know who's on it, because I'm sure they're gonna start to buttonhole folks and talk about it a little bit, because like I said, I'm sure you all heard people say, oh, I like this, or I like that. And this way they have a go-to person.
And so I think we let people know who we are. Okay, so she'll do an introductory little column for where bulletin connections, wherever that would go.
Before we leave, and while Bob is on the Zoom,
Uh-huh.
could we just take like a group selfie for that part?
That would be great.
That would be
In
marvelous.
front of the television.
Yeah, well, yeah, so we'll I'll have Stacy come in and take our pictures if Bob's here.
Perfect.
Okay, we'll just
Don't go,
stand
Bob.
there and we'll have him.
You'll be looking over.
Yeah, you will. We're gonna be, you look kind of godlike, but we're gonna make you smaller. We're gonna make you smaller somehow, okay? So, yes.
I do not look godlike.
So, okay, we got enough time. All right, so one of the things that we need to do is start thinking about how are we going to ask questions, all right? And who are we going to ask them to? So I actually have 2 homework assignments I was thinking of, and you can think, but I'm not married to them. I think first this question of who is it that might be interested? Who are the personas that we want to think about? And those might already have been developed by somebody else on another committee. I do think that Ernie at some time did personas.
He did, for the growth committee,
Okay,
based on who the committee thought were our natural
okay.
clients, customers,
All right.
people.
So we could take that as a starter personas and then add in our own, because that's for growth. And I do think that sometimes the family still might want, those who are currently worshiping, might not be the target of the growth committee. So it's this building out who our personas are, and then how do we reach them? And then it's the starter set of what would we ask people? All right, so the formation of a survey and the personas. So I think somebody could do it alone if they wanted to, or if 2 people wanted to work together on either of those assignments, that works too. So does anybody want to work on either of those assignments? Rob, which one are you?
Identifying the target audience.
Okay, so target audience,
That's what I used to-
okay,
I can send you the document that they came up with. There was like 10 or 12 different person
Sleeps that would be.
And then they identified which ones were most,
They
the
like
team ranked them.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, that's the growth
Yeah,
team, so they're outward focused,
so we
who
gotta
in
think
who in the
inside.
neighborhood, who in the community, not who at SAKLC.
I can't, Marge and I will not be able to resist giving you learnings from the AV Tech Task Force. And we would go, well, we should talk to the committees. Well, we should talk to the thing. And then it would always come up, well, who's gonna talk to the quilters? Okay, so. Just remember, I don't know why that's something that brings laughter, but
Because we all know the quilt.
Everybody knows, but I think there's,
Easier to laugh than to cry.
but I do think they're a force, so we have to
They are.
remember they're in the family and we care about the quilters as well, okay?
I'm missing some nuanced detail.
I know.
Oh, there's not a lot of nuance.
We'll introduce you.
But you know, some people did say they'd go talk to committees and maybe we could send Rob to the quilters and it would be a good learning
They would
experience.
Trial by fire.
No, remember, now we use good humor because we love people. All right, I just want to, we never snarky, we love people. All right, so Rob's gonna take a target audiences. Do you want, you're good solo or do you need a partner? You good
If
solo?
you'd like to work with me, that would be fine. Otherwise, I'm happy to fly solo.
Okay, so you will bring those to our next meeting, okay? If you can give those to me ahead of time, I can, so people can digest.
How early do you like it?
As long as when will you hear from me since we're meeting on Tuesdays? I will always send out the prep memo on Sunday. Okay, so that gives you Sunday night and Monday to read up the agenda. Okay, so the Sunday before whenever our next meeting is. Okay, all right. Who would like to, oh, Michael's doing guiding principles. Who would like to take a stab at the survey?
I wouldn't mind doing that, but I would like some help.
All right,
I
all
think it
right.
takes
I could
more
work
than
with
one
you on
eye
that.
to.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ann and Marge,
And then I'm more than happy to make the survey to.
yeah, you're
To
gonna,
highlight your
Nina,
questions.
Nina will get it so that whether it's paper, online, however we're going to do it, will be survey mechanism. Marge and Ann will do a starter draft of a survey, okay? Starter draft, okay. Survey, okay, good. All right, and I actually think that's more than enough for what we need to do to get going here. What I need is who wants to do the opening devotion prayer? And it usually works well with a nice rotation so that we have a couple different people who like to do that. Are you good on that, Kevin? Okay, Chris will definitely want to do that. She loves that
Suggest her
space.
even though she's not here.
Yeah, no, so she loves
And
the,
Bob.
and Bob, all right, so
Okay.
we'll rotate between the three of you on the opening devotion, okay? Meaningful but brief, okay, meaningful but brief, okay, because we only meet for an hour, so that's Kevin, Bob, and Chris, okay? All right, okay, I think we're good. Anybody else have anything? How come we're not talking about this? What else? We're not talking about this. Anybody got anything that you want to make sure, if not today, that we talk about next time?
I did this, just a thought, coming from the task force for the AV Tech group. Surveys seem to go not well. People are feeling, I think, a little over surveyed,
Mhm.
and I'm concerned about that. So I don't know the best way to do that to get some engagement. I know, Whitlinger's staffed a table on the narthex between services to try to get people to stop and start asking questions and gave them a paper copy if they weren't comfortable going online. That's a barrier. We found that out. So it's just a concern that I have as we start thinking of another survey.
Well, and along those lines, I'm sitting here thinking about this. I'm not so sure, what is the bottom line we're asking? You know, we just can't start asking a whole bunch of questions.
We need to
about
have a
bunch of
focus,
different things.
yeah.
What is the focus here of what we're trying to, what do we want to ask? You know, like what kind of service you want, what kind of, I mean, I think it goes broader than that, right?
All right, so I have a thought on this. I think those are both very good points. One is, I think we will have a whole meeting about, are we going to have in between service talks that we can talk to people about? So I don't think I just wanted to make sure we're starting thinking about questions we want to ask. So let's not say the word survey. let's say, what do inquiring minds want to know? And then we have to figure out how to get it. All right, so you're gonna think about what do inquiring minds want to know? So we will not talk about doing a survey yet, knowing that someday we'll probably do some kind of a survey, okay? But this does bring me to a beautiful narrative from someone who'd like to write a narrative about. We kind of used it with the AV Tech Task Force about sparking people's imagination. So this is about the sparking the imagination about what's possible with worship. And so it could be an interesting backgrounder or something that would write about what's possible when we think about worship in today's day and age. What do people need from their worship? And what are the ways that people can get it? And this task force is sitting to ask those questions. But we did with the AV Tech Task Force. Imagine you could sit in your cabin in Wisconsin and participate in pastor's exercise program. Okay, so it was so people could kind of see, I know you didn't. But it wasn't waiting. No, so it is kind of but it did spark you to think about the possibility there, okay?
I'd sign up.
So, yeah. So,
Context is not my friend.
so,
I almost choked. Don't do that, but I'm having a good.
all right, so instead of leaping to the questions, could Marge and just brainstorm what kind of a idea sparker thing could be an article that could be shared in a variety of ways. We could do a video with it. We could do just to share with people what's going on behind those rooms over there. What are they thinking about? So people find the worship experience. It's different for every person. Some people are like this, some people like this, some people this is important. And we want to make sure that we're reaching into what the people who worship with us now and future worshipers might experience. Or people who, to Rob's point, who aren't even thinking they're supposed to be worshiping. But so it's kind of that big. So it's that inspiring narrative that we need to start with. But you have such a wrinkled brow there. I'm thinking. Good. Oh, good. It's okay. Well, do you want to take a stab at? Okay, this is where I think about, pick out 3 people in the congregation that when we say, would you please come to a focus group about this? They would go, I've got to go. Okay, so it's what is this? What would entice people to want to weigh in? What would entice people to want to come to a focus group? What would entice people to, at fellowship, want to talk about this question? So this is kind of like our enticing thing. Are you comfortable taking a stab at that? Sure. Okay. All right, Marge, you okay with you two brainstorming that?
We'll come up with something.
Kevin?
I just want to point out to Bob, there's nobody manning the chat, so the chats that you're putting in.
Oh, what are you
I
putting?
just have to see something
Oh,
pop up. You need to
he's
just
talking
come
to
out
him.
and
Yeah,
say
could
what
you
you're
just
saying.
yell?
He
Okay,
said,
praise the Lord. Okay.
threat not issue, uplifting, supporting one another, get from the service, uplift, inspiration, joy, spiritual energy.
Okay, all right, okay, good. All right, I think those were actually answers you actually got a chance to tell us, but he was using the chat. We shall try to man the chat in the future for people who are Zooming, but I do want you to go like this, okay? When you want to talk, if you're on the Zoom, but thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
All right, we're good. All right, we're within the 5-minute limit. So I'm gonna get someone to take our picture. But is there anything else that we want to talk about today? I'm actually gonna go around the room and I'm gonna ask everyone to share just, are you feeling uncomfortable? Are you feeling comfortable? Are you feeling whatever? What is your emotion at this time about this job you have accepted? So Bob, do you want to go first?
Sure. My thoughts are that I'm joyful, happy that to be part of this and raring to go, period.
All right, okay, Marge?
I'm excited about the potential of what we're going to learn and what we could possibly do with that information. Because I believe St. Armands is such a wonderful place. It's the first church that we ever picked out. My husband and I went to the same church and grew up in it and went to it, got married there, son was baptized there, never picked out a church. And for us, it was really meaningful to find St. Armands. And so I'd like to share that with other people and find out, like, one of my favorite questions to ask people is, how did you find St. Armands? And it's interesting. So you learn a lot just from asking those kinds of questions. But I think focus groups are a great idea. So Ann and I will talk.
All right, okay. Yeah, we want to entice people to want to play. That's what I want. We want to entice people to want to play in this discussion. So you two are going to help us entice them. Okay.
Well, we'll try.
Just a reaction on where we are.
Confident. I think this is going to be a really great group.
Okay.
And I hadn't realized just how great until I got the chance to sort of look around the room and, but you know, names on a sheet or an email. And they were all good names. But to just sit in the room and hear where people are coming from, hear the laughter, hear the excitement, hear the commitment. So confident.
Okay. Nina?
Very hopeful. I'm excited. I'm hopeful that we will be able to bring more joy and well to the congregation and the community throughout for this task force.
Okay. All right,
I
Rob?
stole some of my thunder there.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Open possibility. Those are the two emotions that,
Okay.
and then a lot of joy too.
All right.
Excited.
Okay. Kevin?
Satisfied. I shared with you, I'm not a committee person. Never have been, but I liked, you know, what the pastor said about being focused, about being structured. I've sat and spent my life in way too many meetings where people just sit around and talk and they just bounce off. So I like the structure of this. I like the way it's going. And I would just like to add, I told myself when I retired, I was never gonna write another report after all the reports. So I don't like doing the writing things, but I am one of those crazy people who loves public speaking. So any of the, you know, focus groups, getting up in front of the church, talking about this, being out in the lobby, that's my area where I will be happy to participate. So
Okay, good. All right. Michael?
I think it's a great group. I think there's a lot of different perspectives. There's people who've been here for a long time. There's people who just joined. There's different ages. I think it's just a really nice mix. I think that we do need to answer the who question, because I think everything that we're going to think about and recommend is going to be based on who. And I have a feeling that the who is going to be not necessarily the people who are currently coming to church. Because I think over the past couple of years, the people who are regulars and everything are generally like happy. So I think we have to be looking outward, and answering that like who question is going to be really important.
I agree with Michael. The first word that came to my mind was, I'm full of curiosity. I can't wait to see how this evolves and where we go with this and what the end product is. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Because it's different, it's changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as one of the who's who wants it to happen, I'm kind of in. So I'm not the one on the street that we don't know yet. So I do think we have out who's and in who's. I think we have two kind of who's. All right, who's. So there's an inside who really wants something to happen. Okay, so. All
This is
right.
very Dr. Seuss.
I was gonna-